Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
Blood clots are in the news, and in the context of the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine, we know that a few countries in Europe have temporarily paused their rollout of the vaccine until they're able to establish a link between reported blood clotting events and the vaccine. We'll discuss a little bit about the vaccine itself towards the end of this video, but mainly in this video we'll discuss blood clots in general, how they form, when they form, where they form, when they're good and bad, and what complications they could potentially cause. I'm Sandhya Ramesh and this is Pure Science. We all likely know why blood clots. It is an automatic function performed by the body to prevent blood loss. Prevention of blood loss naturally by the body occurs through a process called hemostasis. This process itself occurs through 3 steps. The first one is vasoconstriction, or when blood vessels start to constrict and tighten so that it can reduce the amount of blood flowing through these muscle cells and thus exiting the body. This is especially effective in smaller blood vessels. We can also induce vasoconstriction using cold, as is followed in sports medicine and in cases of injuries. Then the second step to hemostasis is the platelet plug. Platelets or thrombocytes are cells without a nucleus, and they clump together, and at the site of an injury or where there is blood flow, blood exiting the body, they come together and temporarily plug the wound site, adhering to the damaged skin. Often in our daily lives as well, we tend to cause microabrasions or tears on our skin which we barely notice, but which our body's platelets are plugging every day anyway, healing our bodies without our knowledge. The third step in hemostasis is the clot formation. Once platelets are in place at the site of the wound, the proteins that produce blood clots are activated. Clots are basically formed by a fibrous protein called fibrin, which fuses and forms a mesh-like structure over the wound. This, the blood clot, then hardens and contracts, and the wound is sealed. This is the general process of blood clotting, simplified to a very great extent, and we've all seen blood clots on our bodies, even from minor injuries such as when we scrape our knees or our elbows. But blood clots can also occur inside of blood vessels, and this can lead to a condition called thrombosis. When a blood vessel in our body, a vein or an artery, gets injured, blood clots are formed there as well. This is normal. But sometimes, even when there is no internal or external injury, clotting can get stimulated and blood clots will form inside of these blood vessels. These blood clots can also break free and move around in the bloodstream inside of our body. When a clot moves like that unattached, it becomes an embolus. Any unattached mass traveling through the blood vessels with the ability to block these very vessels is an embolus. This includes a blood clot or even an air bubble. And when an embolus blocks the blood vessels, we get embolism. So what causes blood clots without injury inside of blood vessels? In the normal context, there are 3 categories of factors that contribute to thrombosis or clotting of blood inside of blood vessels. These are described as Virchow's triad. They are broadly: number 1, interruptions to blood flow, such as caused by long surgeries. Number 2, injuries or irritation to the blood vessels, such as even that caused by catheters after a surgery or contact by medical devices or even hypertension. And number 3, there is the ability of blood itself to coagulate more than normal, and this is called hypercoagulability. The risk factor for excessive blood clotting is exacerbated by taking things like hormonal birth control or even getting pregnant very late in life, but it is also worsened by conditions like obesity or diabetes or stress or cancer or even smoking. The concern with blood clots inside blood vessels is the damage to muscles and tissues that are affected by the clot. But there is, of course, a really big risk of embolism. An embolus in the veins can get stuck in the lung and cause pulmonary embolism. In the arteries too, embolism could occur. An embolus could technically prevent blood flow to the brain by blocking blood vessels and thus causing a stroke. And there are other risks too. But thrombosis is actually not that uncommon. Venous thrombosis, including deep vein thrombosis DVT and pulmonary embolism PE, actually occurs in about 1 in every 1,000 adults every year. So it's pretty common, and it is in fact a leading cause of death and complications in many hospitalized cases. The risk of thrombosis rises sharply after you cross the age of 45, and it's seen in more men than women. And you're at a higher risk if you've already had previous episodes or incidents of thrombosis. So if it is this common, it should surely be preventable and treatable. And yes, of course it is, and with anticoagulants and blood thinners that we're all familiar with. The most common of these is heparin, widely used and is also called low molecular weight heparin or LMWH. Its use is first preceded by proper risk assessment and understanding of a patient's medical history thoroughly. These drugs, these blood thinners or anticoagulants like heparin or soferin, are often used as heart medication as well. There are also drugs that can destroy blood clots, which need to be carefully administered so as to not bleed out a patient accidentally. Sometimes surgeries are also required, especially in situations where blood clots block blood flow, causing limbs to blacken. And now the AstraZeneca vaccine. So what is happening? Some people in European countries have reported an emerging condition which is now being called vaccine-induced prothrombotic immune thrombocytopenia or VIPIT. The people who've reported this have done so after about 4 to 12 days after taking the AstraZeneca vaccine. So far though, there is no established causality. That is, we don't have data or any indication that can directly establish that the vaccine caused the disorder. Most experts are not convinced that they are connected, but some have pointed out to the fact that the number of cases that are reporting this condition after the AstraZeneca vaccine was administered are rising. The VIPIT cases show 4 important markers. One is low platelet count in the blood tests because of course the platelets are off, creating blood clots in specific locations. Then there's molecules associated with blood clotting that are detected in blood tests. And then there's the actual formation and detection of blood clots themselves. And of course, most importantly, there is the presence of a certain antibody that tends to overstimulate platelet production. However, these cases that are showing VIPIT are still far too few, about 30 cases in 18 million doses of vaccine or so, or about 1 in 500,000 vaccine doses in the UK. By comparison, if you're above the age of 60 or 65 in a European country, you have a 1 in 100 chance of dying. So the data is pretty clear that the vaccine is definitely more beneficial, and we have not managed to establish causality. Until we do, and even if we do, the benefits of a COVID vaccine will continue to outweigh the risks of this medically treatable problem.